Hi, welcome to the White House. This is Friday and I'm Lalit.
And I'm Douglas Christian, and this is our Friday Roundup. What a week this has been.
Yeah, so I think there are three important topics to discuss today. One, the first state dinner of the president, right?
Yes.
Second, the railroad strike,
Yes.
or not to be a strike, right? The legislation that has been
Right.
passed. And third one, the Fed decision.
Right, exactly.
Let's start with first one. Important day, important week for the White House and President Biden administration. They had the first state dinner. The French president was here. Tell us about it.
First state dinner in 3 years. Of course, the pandemic had shut all these events down. And so for this is the first state dinner for President Biden. And what a dinner it was. It was glamorous. It was a star-studded event, over 300 guests. Of course, there was a dark undercurrent of this whole beautiful event as well. Maine lobster, everything else. And that was danger lurking, both abroad, Ukraine, Russia, and also domestically. President Biden and Emmanuel Macron, they addressed both issues. And they invoked the spirit of the Marquis de Lafayette, who was the great revolutionary hero. A statue of him is right in Lafayette Park, right behind us here. And there, of course, right on the old executive office building, there is a flag, a French flag paired with an American flag. Any historian knows that Americans would not have won the Revolutionary War without the huge contribution of France to win that war.
So can you tell them why President Biden invited his French counterpart for his first state dinner?
Emmanuel Macron has become the de facto leader of the European Union. We always say that there's been a special relationship with Britain, but as Britain has just been revolving through prime ministers, in a crisis with Brexit, etc., it's lost some of its standing. And with Angela Merkel in Germany having retired, Germany too is not quite as much of a leader these days as France is. France is standing parallel with NATO and with the United States, standing up to Vladimir Putin, standing up to authoritarianism, and it's been a huge commitment. We're talking tens of billions of dollars and probably that again going forward. Both here and in France, Biden and Macron are both worried about the threat from authoritarianism. And they know, as Biden said, that democracy delivers, and they need to believe in democracy, and they need to show it works. And so at the state dinner, it was a bipartisan event. He had Republican Senator Susan Collins there. He had Republican Senator John Thune there as well. Of course, he had Chris Coons from Delaware, who was an old friend of his and represents the state that Biden was from. But that was an important statement that Biden made by inviting several Republican
So the two
statesmen.
leaders presented a united picture before the rest of the world of democracy works, but they were not reluctant in expressing their views on the key issues or differences they had, right? Can you tell us what were the differences they spoke about?
Well, first of all, the main issue is democracy. Democracy delivers. They also want to be sure to show that we will stand up for democracy, for Ukraine. That's a big issue. We don't know what's going to happen with the next Congress, whether there's going to be the same level of support for Ukraine as there has been. We're going to find out. And of course, the economy always looms. Of course, there's been the threat of inflation. There has been the threat, as we saw from, so let's talk about other issues.
Let's move to the next issue.
Yes.
The railroad strike. Why it did not happen? why did President Biden has to reverse his policy? So far he has been saying that he is the protector of the unions. He has been railroad man, right?
Right.
Throughout his Senate life,
that's exactly right.
From here to Delaware, right?
Right.
Morning and evening. What happened now?
What happened here was that there was a looming threat to the U.S. economy. Here, Biden has been the most pro-union president we've had since Jimmy Carter. But he wanted to be sure that we didn't suffer a huge recession had there been a railroad strike. This administration estimated that a railroad worker strike would have cost the economy $2 billion a day. That 765,000 American workers would have lost their jobs. And he could not risk that. So even Nancy Pelosi, the outgoing Democratic House Speaker, supported this bill. The spot that was real, Biden had thought that they had nailed a deal together in September. The problem is that this deal did not have provision for more than one paid sick day a year. It did provide for a 24% increase in pay over 5 years, but that one tripping point was a huge problem going forward. And a majority of the union rejected the deal. So President Biden instituted or lobbied for a law which was passed by both the House and the Senate on a bipartisan level that made it illegal for the railroad workers to strike. Well,
if the railroad workers are so important for the American economy, it's better that the country and the administration take care of those railroad workers, right? As of now, it doesn't look like they have been taken care of, right? They can't take their sick leave.
It's a terrible balance, and union leaders said, look, our votes are going to go to whomever supports us. And so it was a position that President Biden didn't want to necessarily take. But he knew that the greater economy, the greater good, came from having this solved in a different way.
I hope President takes care of his former colleagues and friends in the railroad industry, right?
Oh, yes.
Let's move on to the inflation. What happened at the Fed this week?
Well, the Fed, the funny thing is the Fed has said that they want to raise interest rates, that they want to continue to raise interest rates in order to dampen down inflation. And we saw just today that there are 265,000 new jobs that are in the U.S. economy, which indicates that the economy is strong despite the fact that the Fed is pushing back and trying to dampen down the economy. However, Chairman Jerome Powell said in the Senate this week that he did not see that it was necessarily a good idea to fight inflation at any cost, that there had to be a balance there. And many people had actually been writing letters to the Fed saying, listen, if people lose their jobs because you raise interest rates, what good are you going to do? How is this going to help us? So there was this balance going on here. Overall, the economy is in good shape. I mean, and unemployment is very low, and but yet there is this looming threat of inflation. Now, inflation over in Europe and overseas is much higher than it is here in the United States. But of course, our politicians in this country need to look out for people here first.
Well, under the world's largest democracy, inflation under Prime Minister Modi is under control. Prices have stabilized. It's not like Europe. There is no energy crisis. So things are better. As you said, democracy delivers.
It does. And with that, we have finished this episode of our weekly summary. Now, do give us a thumbs up, like us, and also subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Write to us if you want to know any other information from here, what you want to hear from us next week, do write to us.
And I will put our emails below so that you can see, okay? So that you can write to us, okay?
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.